case. During our discussion today, there will be a short film as well as a song dedicated to one of the victims. During the panelist intervention, anyone would like to ask any of the panelists any questions, please go ahead, write your questions, and we will read them to the panelists. I would first like to introduce the speakers one by one. So I will introduce the speaker, then we'll have that speaker taking the floor. With us first is His Excellency Ambassador of Germany, Mr. Andreas Kindl. Ambassador Kindl has been the German ambassador in Lebanon since 2020 in August, started in August. Prior to that, he served as ambassador of Germany to Yemen. Ambassador Kindl has been serving the German Federal Foreign Office for over 2 decades, in which his work also covered Afghanistan, Tunisia, and Belgium. So I would like to give the ambassador the floor to share with us his thoughts on ways forward in this regard. Ambassador Kindl, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Imad, and thank you, Antonia, for convening us here. It's an honor for me to give the opening remarks to today's panel discussion on truth, accountability, and the rule of law. And all of us who have been present in Beirut on the 4th of August and survived will not forget the day. And although it is human and understandable that we all want to restart and get over it, I feel it is also important that we all constantly recall that there has been no justice served yet. It is important that we remind others that impunity is not acceptable. And I did so just yesterday when we opened the municipal police station in Karantina. I would like to thank really the team of law, not only for making today's discussion possible, but also for its continuous engagement in these matters. These are challenging times for Lebanon. The explosion happened amidst the corona pandemic, with all its particular constraints affecting the Lebanese daily life. Even more, Lebanon's economy was already in a meltdown for several months ahead of corona. And finally, as a result of the port explosion, the country experienced a political vacuum. The Arab-led government quickly took a caretaker role, so no regular legislative initiatives were possible anymore. While I understand that the circumstances are extremely difficult, these have never been used to justify the delays. Yet we witnessed numerous interferences into the investigation. We counted here in the embassy a total of over 30 judicial actions. I think we will hear more about this later, to block the investigation. Additionally, there were also non-judicial actions. Let me just name a few. Arrest warrants were not being implemented. A former prime minister leaves the country in the early hours of dawn. Hezbollah threatens the judge. Cabinet has been blocked for months. And the Tayuna incidents, of course, all of this is linked to the investigation into the port explosion. And even parliament has been called into session, seemingly to avoid a lacuna for immunities. And attempts for interference have not yet come to an end. So the constant call for justice is necessary. What more we all can do will be discussed today. Just 2 thoughts on the risks of the continuation of what we have now. First, a prevention of justice here in Lebanon will potentially also lead to an unfulfilled desire for justice in other countries where investigations are current, and we will hear about this later. So there's definitely an interest of the international community here. The prevention of justice is, of course, also an injustice towards those who are already in prison, especially those who might be innocent. What is their fate if an indictment cannot be issued? Second, I sense that there is the beginning of a change within the international community, because it becomes clearer by the day that the call for an independent investigation on a national level is being in vain. If that is the case, other instruments might be in order. You know that in July last year, the EU issued sanctions against Lebanon. These were mainly thought to encourage the forming of a government and the elections taken in time. But the text of the sanctions regulation allow, in my point of view, and I think this point is shared by some other member states in the European Union, allow also the sanctioning of individuals that prevent justice and the rule of law. So I think that would be one of the aspects that could come into order here. I'll be concluding by wishing all of us a fruitful discussion today. It's of utmost importance to keep the port explosion and its investigation on the top of the agenda. This has been guaranteed by all of those resolutions and public communiques we do, including the 3RF communiques and the 3RF fundamental document. So this will stay with us. And I hope that that we gain momentum to broaden this investigation and come therefore to a point where justice will be served. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to participate in the discussion afterwards if there's any question coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We truly appreciate all the support that Germany and EU and the international community is providing us to pursue justice in this investigation. But as you note that so far the Lebanese government, just like you mentioned, has been through various politicians obstructing this investigation, and by every means possible, even those who are being warranted are even running in a forthcoming election. You know, we wonder whether the Lebanese government and the Lebanese politicians are at all implicated by these sanctions you mentioned, or by some of the pressures being placed by the international community, and whether they were at any level respond to. Do you think there is a way where organizations, parents of the victims, or some NGOs can pursue this case internationally with your support at all? Do you think this is possible? If I may ask a question.
You know, I think what we...
I know, yeah, go ahead, please.
No, that's fine. I mean, I remember when the explosion happened, there were a lot of communiques and statements and so on asking for justice. And from the international community in the beginning, and also from NGOs in the beginning, rarely they were asking for international investigations. Mm-hmm. I think there was a reason for that, because still, you know, in a international environment, we would like to believe that problems or judicial processes like this can be solved on a national basis. Mm. And also it is important, I think, from a third country perspective to support the institutions that exist. Never mind that these institutions might be corrupted, might be broken, and so on. But in all circumstances, in all contexts, it is important for the international community to stabilize, to support in national institutions. I think this is the main reason why mostly international organizations, international institutions, and the international community did not ask for an international investigation. Also because you will remember that at the time, it was the time of the announcement of the indictment of the judgment in the Rafiq Hariri case, just a few days before that. And it is, of course, in the memory of the international community that not necessarily international investigations are proposing the best solution for a investigation like this. I mean, it took us 15 years to come to a judgment. So of course there's also there, you want as families of those who were killed on the 14th of February 2005, you want justice earlier, and you don't want to wait for 15 years. And I think that's completely understandable. So the first resort is, of course, national jurisdiction. Now, as I said, I think there's a moment where, with the indictment not being possible at the moment, because still we don't have the nominations for the plenary assembly of the Court of Cassation. We have all those judicial interventions against Tarek Bitar. It seems really that also within the international community, there's an idea that gains momentum, that there's no justice possibly to come from a national jurisdiction. And just what I was saying is that this maybe coming idea opens up new ways, ways maybe to think about how to involve the international community into these investigations. And I just sort of off the cuff proposed an idea which is very difficult, because we don't have for the moment anyone listed on the sanction list. Not even, there is a sanction regulation, but there's no one on the sanction list. And in order to have someone on the sanction list, you need consensus among 27 member states of the European Union. So this is not at all an easy way. But I think personally, and I think there are others in the European Union who think the same way, there is a possibility to find in the text of the EU sanctions regulation, where it says that if you undermine the way of the rule of law, there is a way possibly to lobby for sanctioning individuals that are preventing justice in that case. It's an open question for me, and it's not, I understand it's not very helpful of me to have this open proposal, because I cannot guarantee any success with this. It's a matter of consensus among 27, and it was difficult to come around with the regulation anyway. But apart from the discussions we always have on the UN framework, this might be one other aspect.
Okay.
Back to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Your Excellency. And hopefully, the regime, to help us, our judiciary, one way or another, from the international community will come soon, rather than too late, like the way it happened with perhaps Rafiq al-Hariri's investigation. Great. Our next panelist is Mireille Khoury. Mireille Khoury is among the survivors of the explosion. She's the mother of Elias Khoury, who was killed by the explosion at the age of 15. Her family, as well as herself, were also injured, and their house was totally destroyed. Mireille, thank you for being with us today. And, we feel bad to put you under all these kind of pressure to have you speak. I know all the situation you're in, but we truly appreciate to hear your testimonies, to have you share with us your thought on how we perhaps need to move on this case. Would you please share with us your thought on this, Mireille?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Doctor, and please allow me to thank LAW team and Antonia for organizing this panel, and thanks to all those who have joined. I'm Mireille Khoury, a mother of two children, Enur and Elias. Up till August 2020, I used to live my life as any mother in this world. And I even considered myself a lucky mother, working hard and doing my best to give my children everything that will make them happy in life. On August 4th, 2020, in just a second, I lost my 15-year-old son, and my daughter was badly injured. She is still undergoing surgeries, and she will carry many scars in her heart and on her body for the rest of her life. I was injured as well, and I lost my house, my home, and myself. Today, I'm counting my days till I rejoin my son. What keeps me going is my duty towards my daughter and to achieve justice for my son. My story is very similar to many mothers after the explosion in Lebanon. It is our right to know the truth. It is our right to know that those responsible for this crime are held accountable. It was the right of our children to live and to be safe in their homes. It is our right to know why explosive materials were badly managed and stored in the main port of the city, in a residential area and near a highway where thousands of people commute daily. It is our right to know who stored these materials, who knew about them and did nothing for 7 whole years, and even in the last 20 minutes, which is the time between the fire outbreak and the explosion. They didn't even care to evacuate the area. Who didn't even warn us? They even called 10 firefighters to their death. 20 months after the explosion, 20 months, the domestic investigation is effectively non-existent, as will be briefed and as is being tackled throughout this panel. And we have no clue whether this investigation will ever be resumed. And even if it is resumed, we do not know if it will ever continue, considering all what has happened so far since the beginning of the investigation, and considering the political pressures and the track record of the justice system in Lebanon. I would like to recall here the mandate of the Human Rights Council. It is to promote universal respect for the protection of all human rights and fundamental freedoms for all, and address situations of violations of human rights. The Beirut port explosion, in its essence, is a situation of violation of human rights. It has been recorded as the largest non-nuclear explosion in history, and it killed more than 220 people of various nationalities. So this is not merely a Lebanese issue or a Lebanese case. It's rather a universal issue. It's the right of everyone living anywhere in the world to know the truth. I appeal to the representatives of the member states of the Human Rights Council. I appeal to them and I appeal to you as mothers and fathers, and not only as representatives, to table a resolution for an independent UN investigation, or if not through the Human Rights Council, through any other means which I might not know of. I also appeal to the High Commissioner of the UN High Commissioner of the Human Rights. You cannot imagine how it feels to lose a son whom I raised for 15 years, dreaming that the day will come and he will graduate from high school and join university. This year, Elias would have been graduating from high school and joining university. I had prepared and planned everything for this year, but he's not here anymore. I have always dreamt of the day he would graduate from university and how he will turn out to be a man proud of himself, and I would be proud of him. You cannot imagine how it feels to lose a child in such a horrendous, unjust manner. You cannot imagine how it feels if justice is denied. Justice delayed is justice denied. Please listen to the agonies of the mothers of the victims. Listen to the injured, those with permanent disabilities whose lives have changed forever. Please do not turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to this human rights violation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mireille. No words can really, grieve you. We know the depth of the wounds you had. The minimum we can do is to bring justice, because the justice to you is a justice to all. So we hope that we could do something about this, and we wouldn't let this just pass as like another crime. We have a short song dedicated to the victims. So can we hear it, please?
You would wake up from that endless nightmare. I gave you all my care. The last things you witnessed were horrors, not kindness. I wanted to show you beauty, push you away from cruelty. I'll call out your name, I won't forget your face. I'll punish who are to blame. You aren't gone. Sorry you had to go like this. All your dreams are blown away, flying along the wind with your soul. They'll remain. I wish you could stay. You were gone too soon. I couldn't even see you as a groom. At least now you're at peace. You've left our minds at ease. You've left us so heartbroken, trying to grab at the hope that was stolen from my grips. I guess God called dibs. I'll call out your name, I won't forget your face. I'll punish who are to blame. You aren't gone in vain. Sorry you had to go like this. All your dreams are blown away, flying along the wind with your soul. They'll remain. I wish you could stay. You should have stayed.
Thank you for this moving slide. Really, we feel like Elias is like one of us, is like one of my children. And I feel really moved about, this really horrendous crime being committed against our children. So we wanted to get our justice. We need justice served, and we understand that under the current circumstances that there are multiple claims and requests aiming to obstruct and delay the domestic investigation, just like His Excellency was mentioning. So what can be done under the law to ensure domestic investigation continue on the right path? This question, we ask this question to Attorney Diane Assaf. Attorney Assaf is a Lebanese lawyer and partner at Assaf Law Firm. After finishing her studies in ASAS Paris 2 Law School in France, she worked at DS Avocat Paris and Dewey and Liboft London. She's currently a member of the Beirut Bar Association's legal team, which is in charge of reviewing the National Action Plan for Human Rights. She's also the board of Kulluna Irada, an advocacy group committed to reform and good governance in Lebanon. After the explosion, she launched her platform on social media at Law with Diane, where she spreads legal awareness and sheds the light on flaws of the Lebanese judiciary. Diane, the floor is yours to give us more about moving forward on this issue.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, LAW, for having me. Hello, everyone. Listening to you, Mireille, truly gives us strength to continue our fight for accountability. I myself lost a very good friend, Christelle, on August 4. She was 36. She's the reason behind the platform that I started to spread legal awareness and to try and educate Lebanese people on their most basic rights and obligations. This is my way of fighting for my country, to claim it back, and particularly to claim back the justice system and to put an end to impunity. It's always been impunity in Lebanon. Nothing has affected the behavior of the political class, be it the humanitarian crisis, the fact that more than 80% of the population is under the poverty line, or the financial meltdown, or money being stuck in the banks, not even the devastating explosion that blew Beirut city up. The investigation might be our last chance to fight Lebanon's entrenched culture of chronic impunity. If we lose it, and the perpetrators of this horrendous crime are not held accountable, not only will we Lebanese people never heal, but it will certainly be the last nail in the coffin of the Lebanese justice system. So 20 months into Beirut port explosion, the Lebanese people are still waiting for the truth and justice to be established. The investigation has been on hold since December 23. This is the fourth time the investigation is suspended since Tariq Bitar was appointed to lead the investigation. It has been suspended for a total of 153 days so far. Judge Tariq Bitar is being faced with an aggressive campaign accusing him of not being impartial and politicizing the case. 26 requests were filed by the politicians facing charges demanding his dismissal. The latest request that was submitted by two defendants and ex-ministers facing charges, Ghazi Zaiter and Ali Hassan Khalil, who are both, by the way, candidates, as it was mentioned, to the upcoming parliamentary elections. It shows the level of impunity in this country. So their request was submitted against Naji Eid, who is currently in charge of a request to dismiss Judge Tariq Bitar. Naji Eid is unable to render a decision on the matter because of a decision regarding his own removal that has to be issued first by, as it was mentioned by His Excellency Ambassador, the plenary assembly of the Court of Cassation. This plenary court is still unable to render a decision because the Minister of Finance, who is affiliated to Speaker Nabih Berri, hasn't signed this plenary court latest appointments that finally occurred, by the way, after more than 2 months of paralysis due to the lack of quorum. So what should be done in order for the investigation to resume? The latest judicial appointments need to be signed by the Minister of Finance. The plenary assembly will then be able to meet and render a decision regarding Judge Naji Eid. If Naji Eid doesn't get removed, he will then be able to render a decision regarding Judge Tariq Bitar. If Tariq Bitar doesn't get removed, he will then be able to carry on with the investigation. But the problem is that this political establishment will do whatever it takes to get him off the probe. The head of Hezbollah security had sent a threat to Judge Bitar via a journalist and said, we have had enough of you. We will go to the end of the legal path. And if that does not work, we will remove you by force. Needless to remind you that the first lead investigator, Judge Sawan, was removed from the case after a complaint was filed against him by 2 former ministers whom he had accused of criminal negligence. And guess who these 2 former ministers are? The same ones who are trying to get Bitar off the case. The court based its decision at the time on damage to Judge Sawan's own home from the explosion, which it said had raised questions about his impartiality. And it was also based on the fact that he had crossed red lines. In addition to the numerous requests filed by the political class that are putting huge pressure on Judge Bitar, this ruling class also has tried to go down 2 other avenues to obstruct the investigation. One, immunity. Yeah, immunities. Members of parliament, ministers, top security officials, they all hide behind their immunities. And I just want to make it clear that the members of parliament who are facing charges cannot hide behind their immunities. Member of parliament's immunity is temporary and is only supposed to protect them while questioning the government, protect them from being sued while delivering a speech, etc. Their immunity does not in any way protect them from crimes they might have committed. The same goes for the ministers. They argue that they can only be tried before the Supreme Court for the trial of ministers and presidents, whereas only actions related to the exercise of their duties is subject to immunity. Crimes are not. Plus, as we all know, this body hasn't ever charged anyone. So I'm not sure this body even exists. And 2, the second avenue used by the political oligarchy was the government deadlock, as it was mentioned as well. The equation was either Bitar goes or the government goes, either impunity or chaos. And at the time, the tensions around the investigation contributed to the deadly shootings in Beirut on October 14 at a demonstration organized by Hezbollah and Amal. The protesters were demanding the removal of Tarek Bitar. This is how this shameless political class is trying to interfere and obstruct the investigation by manipulating and abusing the justice system and the constitution. Now, what can be done in order to ensure that this investigation remains like on the right path? Three things here. One, the formation of an international fact-finding mission would be extremely helpful, not as a replacement of the domestic investigation, but as a support. 2, something has to be done regarding these countless requests that are being submitted to remove Tarek Bitar, such as setting very high penalties for baseless requests and allowing 1 removal request, 1 per defendant. That would be instrumental in significantly reducing the risk of disrupting the investigation. And of course, immunities should be lifted immediately. And 3, the law related to the independence of the judiciary has to be adopted. The judiciary is under political influence and basically control mainly because this High Judicial Council that oversees the Lebanese judicial system, including the judicial appointments, the promotion of the judges, their transfers, and it also takes, or is supposed to take, disciplinary action against the judges. This council is not independent. 8 out of 10 members of this council are appointed by the government. Only 2 of them are directly elected by the judges themselves. Also, the appointment of the judges are issued by a decree that needs to be signed by several ministers and by the president, which leads to deadlocks, just like what's happening with the partial appointments of the plenary assembly of the Court of Cassation that are not being signed, as we said, by the Minister of Finance, leading to the paralysis of the investigation. And this High Judicial Council is not independent. So therefore, a law should be adopted whereby the council would be financially and administratively independent, meaning the judges would be elected by their peers, not appointed by the government, and without the need of a decree issued by the executive. This will ensure that the judges are not accountable to the politicians, are not scared to render decisions against them, since their appointments and promotions wouldn't be in the hands of the ruling class. So accountability for the Beirut port explosion is a must. It is the cornerstone that will bring, I guess, closure to the victim families and break the regime of impunity in Lebanon. Thank you. Back to you, Doctor. We can't hear you, or I can't hear you.
Oh, here you go. Here you go. Thank you so much, Antonia, Assaf, for this very informative, rounded information we gained from around the case and how, in many ways, this is very helpful, and very helpful also to learn from you ways forward. You gave us like a roadmap of 3 steps forward. One of them is the foundation of international fact-finding mission, in addition to other like independent judiciaries and trying to stop the political establishment from the various aspects of the investigations. I guess the question that comes to mind here, but maybe we'll try to answer this as we go along, is how long would that take for us to do all these kind of different government, and how would a formation of international fact-finding mission be any different than what was previously done with respect to the Hariri assassination? But we'll come back to you on this matter. But first, perhaps we could hear some more on the experience of initiatives being taken around the Beirut port explosions, seeking accountability from Nada Abdel. Attorney Abdel is a managing partner of ASAS Law, a Lebanese law firm. Nada is admitted to the courts of Beirut, New York, and The Hague. She has an established experience in litigation and arbitration across the Middle East, Europe, USA, and Commonwealth countries, and especially for white-collar crimes and commercial and banking litigations. Nada earned international recognition for her work in corporate governance and ethics, and was also named as leading lawyer on multiple occasions by most prestigious independent legal guides. In addition to her LLM receiving her LLM from Harvard Law School, she is a graduate of USG, LAU, AUB. She has also taught law and corporate governance at the American University of Beirut. Attorney Abdel, the floor is yours to tell us more about this, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salame, and thank you for all the speakers who preceded me. And I am honored to be on this panel with their excellencies, the two ambassadors of Germany and Canada, with Antonia, Mulvey, and with Diane, Assaf, and with Mireille Khoury and Sarah Copland. I would like first to thank Diane, my colleague, Maître Assaf, for having provided us with a recap of all the difficulties that are taking place in Lebanon. If there is one thing that comes out of the very well thought round that she gave us, is that in reality nothing can be done within the existing legal system. So all the suggestions that were made require an amendment of the law. Why? Why is it that we have this crazy system? The system is not crazy, it's just being abused by the litigants. No one in their sane mind, when they put the rules of procedures, criminal rules of procedures and the civil ones, because part of it, it's the civil ones that apply for removal of judges. No one thought that a litigant, can keep on submitting one request after the other, just because the law says that this automatically leads to the judge stopping to look into the file. Mm-hmm. So the conclusion is that it is obvious that the problem is inherent to the system, and even if these changes of the law take place, which will take for ages, and we know that they will not take place, then the same people are still here and they are going to still abuse that legal system. There are always leeways in legal systems for abuse. The conclusion is that the solution has to come from outside. The judicial solution, there is no judicial solution in Lebanon, unfortunately. This is at least what the victims that we are advising as ASAS Law and Legal Action Worldwide, a group of around 1,000, a little bit more, this is what they believe. They believe that justice is not only being delayed in Lebanon, it is being prevented and obstructed. And I know that it's a very famous saying, and it's true that justice delayed is justice denied. But in our case, justice is being denied, not delayed. And sometimes when justice when we know the truth after some time, even after 15 years and even after 50 years, justice delayed is justice. Is better than no justice at all. That's the point. There are crimes in history when the truth and justice was made more than 40 years after they were committed. Of course that it's not the perfect justice when there is such a delay. In that sense, justice is not complete, is not whole when it's delayed, but it's certainly better than no justice at all. I am delighted to hear Ambassador Kindl say that there may be a change in the international approach to this issue, now that unfortunately the international community has sensed with its own eyes and hands that the process in Lebanon is not advancing, and that therefore we now need something from help from outside. Why? Why is this important? Because we need two things. First of all, punishment. Punishment must take place. And second, and more important, it's the never again message. We don't have a never again message in Lebanon. It's you can kill today and tomorrow and after tomorrow and repeat and nothing will happen. You can take everybody's money, their lifetime savings, you can do anything and it can happen and be recurrent every other day. So the never again message is a nation building message. That's what Lebanon needs. And if such a horrendous crime does not, shake the international community, then what is it that will? It's just unthinkable. And there is one thing that is extremely important and that I call here upon Ambassador Chastenay and Ambassador Kindl. Now, as you were speaking, I received a message from a friend informing me that the government has decided to destroy the silos. The government wants to destroy, erase anything that reminds anyone of this crime. So they took the eraser and now they want to erase the crime scene. They want to erase the scar, the wound that is standing over there, reminding everyone that justice has not yet been served, that truth is not even on its way. And they want to erase it from everybody's memory. Of course, the decision is very nicely and diplomatically put in the sense that we will destroy in order to build a memorial. The victims don't want a memorial today. The victims want the silos to be preserved. The witness of this crime has to remain at least until there is some truth being unveiled by the investigation. You don't strike down something like that in such a situation. So I do appeal in the name of all victims who have demonstrated on the streets, who have said that not over our dead bodies, we won't let them destroy the silos. I call upon you to preserve the silos at least until the investigation has proven to be efficient and some of the truth has started to being unveiled. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Attorney Abdel for this informative, also bringing to us and to our awareness how the crime scene is being erased, so to speak. So it's not only obstruction of justice. There is like another crime is being committed here, and no one is being held responsible. So I hope that the international community will help us also at the same time stop further from the further obstruction of justice that we are being witnessing in the country. We'll take a minute here to screen a video of mother of Sarah Copland, mother of Isaac Oehlers, who passed away also during the explosion. Sarah is among the survivors herself of the explosion. She is the mother of Isaac, and she initially came to Lebanon to work for UNESCO on gender equality. So we'll take a few minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, to see this video, please.
My name is Sarah Copland. I'd like to start by thanking Legal Action Worldwide for hosting this important event and for their continued support for the Beirut port explosion victims. My 2-year-old son, Isaac Oehlers, was killed in the explosion. Isaac was sitting in our home, the place where he should have been the safest, and then suddenly the explosion hit. Our entire home was obliterated in a deadly shower of glass, concrete, and debris. A large piece of glass hit Isaac's tiny chest, right in his heart. My husband and I raced him to a hospital, but he died shortly afterwards. The glass had pierced his heart and lungs, and he died of massive internal bleeding and cardiac arrest. My beautiful, cheeky, intelligent, and affectionate boy died of cardiac arrest. My 2-year-old son's last feeling in this world was of intense pain. And make no mistake, Isaac died a painful death. I could talk for a long time about Isaac and what a shining light he was in this world. I could talk for a long time about the impact his death has had on me, my husband, and our extended family. But today I'm going to talk about one thing: justice, or should I say, the glaring lack of justice. I have worked for the United Nations for 6.5 years. The reason I took my family to Lebanon was for my work with the United Nations. Before the UN, I worked in the investigations division of the International Criminal Court. And before that, I spent many years working in counterterrorism investigations in Australia. I have dedicated my career to the ideals of justice, accountability, and upholding human rights. I now find myself on the other side, as a victim of gross human rights abuses, a trauma victim, a victim seeking to navigate the international system of justice. I understand from my professional experience that the system is a slow-moving beast. I know that the international system of justice is not the first port of call. There was a very real need to give the domestic Lebanese investigation a chance, to give it time. I know that things are not straightforward, that there is politics involved. But as a victim, I can tell you that the international system is letting us down. All we have seen over the past 20 months in Lebanon is delays, due process violations, and political interference. It is abundantly clear now that the Lebanese authorities, the same authorities who knew that the ammonium nitrate was stored unsafely at the port and that it posed a risk to the city, will do absolutely anything to ensure the investigation is not completed. They will stop at nothing to ensure the culprits, not the victims, are protected and are never brought to justice. This is undeniable. And I can tell you this: any international politician or diplomat who continues to tell victims that the international system must continue to wait before getting involved is playing politics with our lives. You are playing politics with my son Isaac's life. Since I joined the fight for justice in late 2020, I have been contacted by many fellow victims and survivors in Lebanon. Many have thanked me for speaking up. They tell me that it means so much to them that I am joining this fight because in their minds, the world will listen to someone like me, a Western woman, in a way that it will not listen to them. This always breaks my heart because it shows to me that the people of Lebanon feel that the world has either forgotten about them or doesn't care. Many of you listening today, like me, would have joined your respective fields, whether it be politics, diplomacy, law, or working for an NGO, to make a difference, to uphold the values of accountability, justice, and human rights. I'm sorry to say that when it comes to Lebanon and victims of this gross atrocity, we are failing. We are failing children like my son Isaac. We are failing the Lebanese people, the refugees, the migrant workers, and the many other people with no agency or voice who suffered immeasurable losses due to the explosion. Stop playing politics with our lives. Once again, I call on the Human Rights Council to establish an independent fact-finding mission into the Beirut Blast. Without the truth, we cannot even begin to think about justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for this testimony and for pushing us towards seeking perhaps international fact-finding mission and perhaps pursue the Human Commission for Human Rights on this issue. So whether this is a way to go, I guess we have with us today Antonia Mulvey. Attorney Mulvey is an international lawyer with more than 20 years of experience in criminal, refugee, and international human rights laws. She's a founder and executive action worldwide, a group actively visits. She has been a visiting fellow at the Center for Women, Peace and Security at the London School of Economics and visiting scholar at Columbia University Law School. She's a former UN investigator and has been appointed on multiple occasions to advise and investigate war crimes, crimes against the humanity, and genocide. Previously, she has headed rule of law and access to justice program of the UN and many INGOs. Attorney Mulvey, let us No, please. How do you, Antonia?
Oh, thank you so much, Imad. Sorry you cut out there.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for those of you who've joined us today. Thank you to the panelists. Thank you, Imad, for chairing. To Ambassador Kindl, a great supporter. Good to see you. And to Ambassador Chastenay for joining us today. Of course, my thoughts go out to all the victims and families of the explosion. It's a file that I particularly follow, and to also my thoughts to Sarah and Mireille as always. And every time I hear them, it strikes me, and this is why we are undertaking this fight, and it is a fight, as you've heard, for justice and for truth. Now, I just want to say a little bit about our work, because how does this relate to our worldwide work, to the situation of Lebanon? Legal Action Worldwide, we provide information, assistance and representation to thousands of victims of human rights violations and abuses in some of the most complex and difficult conflicts across the world. Last year alone, we provided legal information to more than 30,000 individuals and represented more than 750 before national, regional, and international courts. We've been working in Lebanon since 2018, providing assistance representation to Lebanese, Syrian, Palestinian domestic migrant workers, and now, of course, to victims and survivors of the explosion. I have to say that this is one of our most difficult fights for justice and truth. And that is a grave statement considering where we work in the world, the fights that we have. Before I go forward and answer the question about what international avenues there are available outside Lebanon, I want to remind ourselves of some of the fundamental principles of international law. The first is the right to a remedy. All victims are entitled to a remedy that is articulated in numerous human rights conventions, including the ICCPR, and of course the General Assembly resolution of 2005 that said that they are entitled to a remedy and reparations victims of gross violations of international human rights law. Victims have a right to the truth. Secondly, the principle of the exhaustion of domestic remedies. Will be aware that there is a requirement that victims use the judicial or administrative complaints procedures available under national law before bringing a complaint internationally. The exception to that is when a domestic procedure has been unduly delayed. And I submit to you today that that is what we have. And we have heard extensively from the panelists that that is the situation, and that the investigation is ineffective for all those multiple reasons, and includes 150 days, was it, that's been suspended. It is absolutely vital that there is truth and justice. It's not only for the victims and the families. No, it is for the future of Lebanon. How can we build a Lebanon on these shaky foundations? Let us be under no illusion that this will work moving forward. So for multiple reasons, we need to show that there can be accountability and the truth. Since September 2020, we've been working with NADA, with ASAS Law, to request the truth and justice. What have we undertaken so far? I just want to tell you what we've been doing, just to see what is also the way forward. Well, in November 2020, we brought out the first report on publicly available information that looked at what was the root causes of that explosion. And as Sarah said, it was known that the ammonium nitrate was stored there. No information was given to the people in the community to move out. We since brought a second report out where we systematically set out all the delays in the investigation. We supported victims to write a letter to the UN Secretary General to establish a board of inquiry. That has been refused. We've sent a letter, we supported 120 victims to send a letter to the UN High Commissioner requesting her to deploy UN investigators. We have not received a response to that letter as yet. An open letter was sent to the European Union Parliament. You may recall that the European Union Parliament passed a resolution where it requested a UN fact-finding mission. And of course, multiple letters have gone to member states requesting justice and to have an independent fact-finding mission. So, to come to your question, Imad, and the panel, what next? Where do we go? I have 5 comments on that. Firstly, the domestic investigation. Issue the indictment. Flawed as it is, issue the indictment. Number 2, establish an independent fact-finding mission. This can be through multiple ways, as we've heard. It could be through a Human Rights Council resolution. OHCHR could deploy investigators. You could have a group of UN independent experts or special rapporteurs coming together. We could also have a working group for one of the UN committees come together, but to provide an independent report and help to find the truth. Thirdly, other avenues. We heard from Ambassador Kindl earlier. Let's look at sanctions. What about supporting the Netherlands' proposal for an international anti-corruption court and let Lebanon or Lebanese individuals be the first to be brought before that court? Let's support that. Fourth, let's look to other member states where there are civil litigation cases or criminal investigations ongoing and support those to move forward. And fifth, Nada, she has brought up today that we must have the preservation of the silos. They must be preserved for the victims and moving forward. Thank you so much. Imad, are you with us? Let's just give him a moment. Can everybody hear me?
Yes. Looks like his connection was getting poor and he was cut off probably.
Connected. Let's just give him a moment. While we're waiting for him to join us, please do put your questions in the chat box. It is an opportunity to ask any of us some questions. I think that we might start with one question to Diane, and then Ambassador, if we don't get Imad left, and knowing that you may have to leave, I'm going to ask you for your first comment, please, because we want to hear from you. So any questions for the Ambassador, please? And in the meantime, Diane, there is a question for you. It says that you mentioned that Halil and Zata, sorry for my pronunciation, are now running for the upcoming elections. What do you think is the effect of them winning?
Well, let me start by saying that if the fact that they are just being charged and there's no a final decision against them allows them, like, doesn't forbid them to run for, because a lot of people asking this question, are they allowed to run? They are, because there's no final decision that has been rendered against them. Well, of course, if they win, and they will probably win, it's a clear message to the Lebanese judiciary that that the Lebanese judiciary is the least of their concerns, that they have the legitimacy of the people, and that they dismiss it. They would dismiss it completely, and it would be a very dangerous precedent to have them re-elected. But unfortunately, I guess they will be.
Thank you so much, Diane. Now, Ambassador, I wasn't expecting to chair this, but now I'm going to step in until Imad comes back and take this opportunity. We would love to have any final comments from you or thoughts. Please, over to you. Oh, and you do have a question here, if I may, and you can choose whether you wish to answer it or not. The question is, what is Germany doing for the German victims in regard to justice, and I think it says reparations?
Thank you, Antonia. Thanks again, really, for convening all of us for this important discussion. I was actually about to answer to that question before I knew the question, because you brought up the issue of national prosecutions, and we have a case, of course, because a colleague of mine was killed on the day, on the spot. She was very close to the explosion. She was killed immediately. And of course, there's a second German victim of German nationality, which is Sarah's son, Isaac. So we have a prosecution running in Germany, but in that case, since the prosecutor is not in the has not the means to prosecute, to follow the investigations on his own, he is waiting for the results of the Lebanese investigation. So really, in reality, I guess it's highly possible that if there's no result of a Lebanese investigation, there will be no result for a German investigation, which of course would be sheer injustice. So this is also one of the reasons why I really want to see that there is justice and that there is a Lebanese investigation, because otherwise it's difficult for me to fathom that a colleague of mine has been killed and there's no justice to that, and Isaac has been killed and there's no justice to that. Of course, this is what I wish. To your other proposals, I really think all of them are worthwhile proceeding. I'm not the best judge in terms of memory culture. Really, we have our own ways of memorizing the past. So I think there are pros and cons for destroying the silos and what happens to that. But what I'm missing here is a public debate on it. It's been just a decision. So that is really, I think, very unfortunate because there are a lot of public interests in this issue, and there should have been, or there should be, a public and transparent debate on this, and not just a decision by cabinet. And it seems to be wobbling anyway. So I really think, without intervening into internal affairs from a human perspective, you would want to have a discussion on preserving a memorial, or how to preserve the memory of such a catastrophe, catastrophe. Thank you very much for letting me participate in this, Antonia, and I wish you all a splendid end of discussion. Thank you very much. Sorry for leaving early.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. I see that Imad has managed to rejoin us. I had just finished and we were just directing a question to the ambassador before he had to leave. And he had just, I don't know if you heard that, Imad, but he had said that he felt that the preservation of the silos, and as he said, it's up to each individual, but what they want to be preserved. Those that we advise, as Nada have said, have asked for that. but he has said that there should have been a public debate on this issue, not a decision and a transparent discussion.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Imad. Back over to you to field the questions. Only Ambassador Kindl has spoken, and a question to Diane as well has already been given.
Excellent. Thank you. Sorry for this technical difficulties where I had to somehow rejoin. But I think we're having a lot of important issues here being brought up. We definitely feel that there is a momentum going on whereby most of the panelists here feel that the way this investigations is being handled by the Lebanese judiciary is flawed. There is a lot of political intervention and obstructions that I don't think any Lebanese really believe that we could reach justice through how things are being pursued in a legal judicial process in Lebanon. And I think if you make a survey right now in Lebanon, you will find a clear consensus that the justice to be really served in this case, we need an international investigation. We need an international law being pursued here. We need an international support because quite honestly, it appears that the Lebanese people are pretty much held hostage by their own institutions and by the many flaws in the government and the rule of law. So international support is critical in this matter, and we hope perhaps this can be addressed by a closing remark of Her Excellency Canadian Ambassador Chantal Chastenay. Chantal, a brief bio of Her Excellency. Ms. Chastenay hold a BA in Political Science and History from McGill University in 1991, an MA in Internations from Laval University in 1993. She joined External Affairs and International Trade Canada in 1993. At the headquarters, she has held various positions, including Deputy Chief of Protocol and Director of the Diplomatic Corps Services. She also worked in Human Resources and the Francophonic Division and in Middle East sector. During her career, Her Excellency has held a number of positions abroad in Morocco 2000 to 2000 and Jordan 1995 to 1990. And later, she was responsible for political relations. She was also a political counselor at the embassy in Paris from 2008 to 2013. And in 2016, she became deputy head of mission and minister counselor at the embassy to Mexico. We're really happy to have Her Excellency with us to give us her closing remarks. The floor is yours. If you could, provide us with some support here and ways forward and how Canada can perhaps foster an international investigations, if at all, in this remark. Your Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just reading the questions. Paul's questions on the chat. Just give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you very much. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to participate to this panel this afternoon. And Paul, I will try to respond to your questions. I have remarks here, and I will, within the remarks, try to respond to part of your questions. But I'd be happy to take it also. So on the sideline with you at any moment, you know where to find me. So Dr. Salame, dear participants, dear panelists, It's really humbling to take part in this discussion this afternoon, and I want to thank you for inviting us, for inviting the Embassy of Canada to participate. As a mother, as a human being, to hear directly from the victims is very touching. So, and I would like to thank the team of Legal Action Worldwide. Thank you, Antonia, for your leadership in organizing this discussion, and to you, Dr. Salame, for doing the moderating of this discussion. Just maybe for a bit of context, relations between Canada and Lebanon are characterized by strong people-to-people ties. So when the explosion of August 4th happened, Canadians felt shocked, dismay in response to the events, and people, were really touched and affected by the number of victims, including the Canadian victims to the blast. And Canadians were quick to respond, with humanitarian support. But of course, such support does not, although it's important for the victims that remain, the people who lost their homes and their livelihood, it doesn't provide much comfort to those who have lost loved ones, victims, their families seeking justice and accountability. And as with other partners, other countries represented here in Lebanon, and as Ambassador Kindl said, we have from the beginning, and we continue to stand with the people of Lebanon, and we've remained steadfast in the support for a credible, impartial, independent domestic investigation into the Beirut port explosion. And the first sign of that was right after the port explosion. 3 weeks later, the Canadian Foreign Minister, François-Philippe Champagne, came to visit Lebanon, met with the Canadian families that were impacted by the explosion, and also in his meetings with Lebanese authorities called for a transparent investigation into the port explosion. And since then, we have continued, to put pressure where we can, and to add our voice to all those who are asking for justice. But we also recognize that the domestic investigation has stalled, and we hear the voices of the people of Lebanon calling for justice. This afternoon, I found that it was an important opportunity to discuss creative solutions, to consider what international mechanism and avenues might be at our disposal. From what I've heard this afternoon, I don't think that there's an easy avenue on the international side as well, but I think it's important that the topic is critical, timely, especially when Lebanon is approaching parliamentary elections and stands at a crossroads. Fair, transparent elections, are a small step to restore citizens' faith in their leaders, pave the way for maybe a healthier society. I must say, I find it, I hope that one panelist said that there was no hope for improving the justice system in Lebanon, and I hope that that's not right? I think we certainly need to continue to look for other avenues, but I think it's essential that we all continue to work, and especially those that are part of the Lebanese judiciary system, that we continue to push for an improvement in the judiciary system, because going forward, Lebanon needs an independent judiciary system. So hopefully we don't all, abandon the idea that Lebanon can one day have a functioning justice system. So for fair, transparent elections to take place, for Lebanon to stand back on its feet again, the national stage must be set for with values of accountability. It was talked about a lot this afternoon, rule of law, and again, the independence of the judiciary, and good governance. And, they're the cornerstone of successful representative democracy everywhere. And reforms need to be implemented. And we have been calling for reforms because those are vital for Lebanon's future. So in Canada, we believe that the same laws should apply for everyone, regardless of, who they are and what position they have in society. And our constitution establishes a system of responsible government. And so accordingly, the executive branch of government is accountable to the legislative branch. The legislative branch in turn is accountable to the electorate. And in the current government of Prime Minister Trudeau, when he first came in power in 2015, he released a guide on open and accountable government, which outlines the standards of conduct for Canadian ministers. And our leaders are expected to lead by example through openness, honesty, integrity, impartiality, both in public and private affairs. And still today in Canada, we need to be working on this. In Lebanon, the principles of accountability and the rule of law have become deeply intertwined with uncovering the truth about the Beirut port explosion. The outcome of this pursuit may set the stage for decades to come. And despite a strong culture of civil liberties and political participation, Lebanon continues to face challenges related to governance. And in light of the coming parliamentary elections, it has a unique opportunity to initiate a virtuous cycle. I hear the frustration of the victims with the delays and hope that out of today's discussion, we can find together new avenues to move forward and faster on the investigation. As I said earlier from the discussion this afternoon, I don't think we have identified an easy avenue. But again, to respond to Paul's questions, I'm here this afternoon because for Canada, it's important that, as we approach the second anniversary of the Beirut port explosion and that you and other families are calling for justice, that we are still so far away from or it seems that the investigation is moving so slowly. So it's important for Canada, as it is for other countries in the international community, to continue to call for justice and to see where we can be helpful, both on the domestic scene with the investigation that is ongoing in Lebanon, to continue to put pressure on the people that are stalling on the various procedures, and also to work, as we are doing this afternoon, to see where the international community can actually maybe find ways to either support the domestic investigation or to find the tools within the international community to move things forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for this statement of support and sincerity in caring for Lebanon becoming a true democracy. We require and very essentially is to have a rule of law and independent judiciary, because without an independent judiciary, justice cannot be applied equally to its citizens. And we've been really kind of concerned, really, as people in Lebanon, whether we truly have a democracy to begin with, and or whether we are really being held hostage here by our institutions that's ruled by very corrupt politicians. All indicators of the level of corruption in Lebanon place us among the lowest, and the state apparatus is really falling apart one after the other. The judiciary now is one of them being subjugated to vicious attack by the politicians themselves. So, in one way, we feel ourselves as a vulnerable population really needing to be protected. And we look sometimes for the international community to provide us with such support and to, protect us not only from our kind of, corrupt government, but also to affirm the principles of justice and democracy that we need to really keep alive in our hearts, so to speak. So given all that, I'm wondering, especially from your perspective, as well as from the perspective of other lawyers here and with us, the panelists, how can we really provide our people protection? How can we bring justice to those mothers who lost their children? How can we tell them that the international community is with you, and the international community really abide by the protections of its principles of human rights? I know there are so many difficulties, but I'm wondering if at least one country in the world will take us and adopt us in a way to pursue our cause in the Human Rights Commission. I think this is one of the entry points to this matter in order for us to hold an international investigation. So perhaps I place this question for you, Your Excellency, or any other panelist as well to respond. What do you think?
It's a very tough question you've presented me. I think I would say that, from the position that I hold here in Lebanon, one thing that, we have been doing in the embassy and that I've seen other embassies do as well, like the German embassies, we just keep going at it and keeping the issue top of mind, keeping it, on top of the pile, if I may use that expression, but making sure, because as time passes and as the crisis in Lebanon continue to accumulate, there is always a risk that the issue will be not forgotten, but maybe will not be given all the attention that it needs to receive. So we see part of our role as making sure that, the people, the leaders of Lebanon, the people that are blocking the investigation, the people that are in positions where they should be playing a leading role in advancing the investigation, are constantly reminded that they need to be doing their job, and that it's unacceptable that almost 2 years after the explosion that there is still no answers, for the victims. So I would start there and invite other panelists to intervene. Thank you very much.
Attorney Assaf or Attorney Abdel, would you like to add to that?
You want to go, Maître Nada? Or... Okay. Indeed, that's a very, very tough question. I tried to shed light on, 3 avenues that can be taken. But I want to say something here, that there's the truth and that there's accountability. I'm convinced that Tariq Bitar is very close to the truth. He is, determined. He is not politically affiliated, and nothing has stopped him. And, he has been charging high-ranked officials. He is not scared. We just don't want him, to get, to die or something. But I'm convinced that he's very close to the truth. And I think that as soon the indictment act, the accusatory act, will be rendered, will be issued, I'm not sure he's going to do that before the elections, because that might be, like an atomic bomb. But soon enough, if he does so, when he does so, it will be clear, and family victims will have answers. Who brought the ammonium nitrate? Why was it stored? Which politician, is responsible in a way or another? Because the accusatory act will be Tariq Bitar's own opinion and perception of the case ahead of the trial that might take also a long time. So if we want to see it, short term, the accusatory act itself might bring truth, maybe not accountability yet, but the victims' families and the Lebanese people will at least get to know the truth.
That's good. I mean, this is something, at least we have some kind of positive things emerging. At least we learn, the truth of who is responsible. So this is really something, but then comes a harder question, right? The question of accountability and how to bring those responsible to justice.
Behind bars. Behind bars,
of course. Attorney Abdel, would you like to add to the comments?
No, I agree with what Assaf has said, but also I cannot stress enough the importance of the support we need for the fact-finding mission from day one, since the explosion, and especially with the assistance of Legal Action Worldwide and Antonia, Mulvey, who is a beacon of international human rights. We've been asking, the victims have been asking for the Human Rights Committee at least to take a resolution to send an independent fact-finding mission. So, and this will assist the Judge Bitar, and it will assist the Lebanese investigation. Because the Lebanese judge does not have the necessary means for such a sophisticated crime, tracing the money, tracing the flows, the technical expertise, etc. And this is usually done, in the Lebanese system. The prosecutor has the right to appoint experts, but usually one of the parties will have to pay the fees of that expert. And this is, a provision that is put for usual crimes, and for this exceptional crime where there is where the main party is the state, the prosecution. So who will pay for such an independent expert team? It's a big question mark. It's literally impossible. That's why if this comes from the Human Rights Council from outside, I'm sure it will be of great help and assistance to the investigation, to the Lebanese investigation itself.
Great, thank you, Nada, for your recommendation. I'm wondering if we could at one time establish some kind of a committee of those who are defending the victims to be also in close contact and touch with ambassadors or with international missions who are interested in pursuing their cause in various ways, either in direct support, in figuring out ways to help us out in reaching out international justice or international, the Human Rights Commission, for instance. Wondering if that's something that we should pursue along the way, or is this something is part of the agenda that can be helpful to our cause? Because I think, I see important champions here, the international community and the civil society of Lebanon, and how to bring those two forces together can be really helpful to pursue our cause. I don't know, final thought on this. I know we're going a bit over our time, but any closing thought? Antonia, would you like to say something?
I'll just say one final comment, and thank you, everybody. I think, let's be clear, an independent UN fact-finding mission does not preclude or stop the domestic investigation. Indeed, it can support it. But if we hit 2 years and there is no indictment, it is absolutely clear that there is a failure of the domestic investigation. So we must follow several different avenues for all the reasons have been outlined, which would support the victims, but also for a future for Lebanon. And indeed, we have the elections coming up. Indeed, we use the domestic legal system for thousands of those that we represent, but it's also been shown clear when allegations are against senior members of the state institutions, the Lebanese domestic system has not been able to deliver. I hope I'm wrong, But I don't think that's going to be the case. So we must look at every possible avenue moving forward. And thank you very much. I would welcome the support of the suggestion committee, Imad, that you've made.
Great, thank you, Antonia. Anyone else would like to make a closing statement before we end this panel discussion?
Well, I would like to just jump on the suggestion you brought. Yes, that would be very, very helpful. But where to start from, I don't know. A strong a committee that coordinates between all these various players would be so much welcome. But where to start from establishing it? This is where I leave it to the experts. Maybe Her Excellency, the Ambassador, or Antonia, I don't know, or yourself.
I guess, Nada, you already started it by gathering all the victims, petitions for this international investigation to take place. So this is perhaps a starting point. Then, going forward, perhaps we need to mobilize and reach out to different international actors who can be of our support. With great, Your Excellency, would like to make additional comment in this regard. What do you think about this latest proposition?
Thank you. I think it probably needs to start amongst, the various panelists with law. I know that, Human Rights Watch has also been really involved. I participated in some events with them as well. So that, and then once you have articulated or brought together a committee that can share ways forward with some with members of the international community, either here in Lebanon or in some of the multilateral fora in Geneva or elsewhere, then I think it might be. But the first step would be that you gather together, I would say, and then bring in the other international actors. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you, everyone. Antonia Assaf, Antonia Abdel, Mireille Khoury, Antonia Mulvey, for your important discussions today. I think we have much thought to take with us after this discussion. We have much work to be done. We have to stress the point that we need justice served, and we will not yield to obstruction from nowhere, from wherever it comes from. I truly thank you all for your time and your contribution to this panel discussion, and hope we meet again for pushing this further forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you so much.